Ooh, that felt nice. I'm not gonna lie, that one felt good, guys. That is a lot of damage. Holy. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested. I am your host Tyrant, and today we have another Lord of the Rings sword. I've been really enjoying getting these functional battle-ready replicas. Recently we did Glamdring, Gandalf's sword. We've got a full episode on this. The reason why I brought this out is because obviously in the lore, in the Tolkien verse, this was forged in Gondolin, and this was also forged alongside it as well. They're both elven swords from the First Age, and it was found obviously in the Troll Cave by Thorin Oakenshield's company. And he uses it throughout the, the Hobbit films, and I believe he gets buried with it as well. It's a fascinating sword with a lot of interesting design, and it's called the Goblin Cleaver, so it should give you an idea of what this sword should be good at, which is what we're going to be testing in today's episode. But before we do that, if you actually want to purchase one of these, you can. So I will leave a link down below. I will also go over some of the specifications because let's see what this sword is made of. So this battle-ready Goblin Cleaver here was sent to me by Swordia. It comes in at around about $329. Now, in terms of some of the specs, it weighs around about 2.2 kilos. That's kind of heavy for this length of sword, which is around about 76 centimeters-ish. And the reason why is because we have a full brass handle, obviously cast in that tooth shape, which is fascinating. The handle length is around about 19 centimeters, so it's rather short, I would say. It's very interesting because I think this thing is going to cleave like a monster. I mean, it is called the Goblin Cleaver at the end of the day. So here we have our Orcrist, or the Goblin Cleaver. The first thing I want to mention is I'm actually really happy in the fact that it comes with a scabbard. I mean, I don't even think the official replica comes with it. I think you have to buy it literally separately. So it's incredible that it actually comes with something with all this cast, what looks to be stainless steel accents. Now, it's not perfect. There are some issues. For example, this casting here doesn't actually fit the bottom of the scabbard quite as, like there's a gap there. That's not ideal. But up on the top locket, I mean, it looks pretty reasonable. It doesn't look like it overlaps anywhere, because obviously if it overlaps, it means it's gonna dull the blade and scratch the blade. But this is just the scabbard, right? This is interesting. I did not expect this. Now, first and foremost, it has an incredible grind on it. Like, if I was going to cut tatami, or like I mean, I haven't cut with it, so I shouldn't get ahead of myself. But just looking at the blade geometry and the grind lines, this thing I expect to be a wicked cutter. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is, obviously, Goblin Cleaver, it has like a tooth as the handle. Now, when they decided to interpret this into a real sword, they went with brass. Interesting, because obviously it's metal. You guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of full metal handles, but it's reasonably comfortable, especially in one hand. In two hands, so far, it's not bad. That's interesting. That might be a talking point soon enough if it becomes a problem. But in terms of how it feels in the hand, it's actually not bad. In terms of the weight profile as well, I'm actually kind of impressed, because brass is a heavy material, right? It's a dense material, and this is a thick guard. If you look at that, you look at how much material we've got on this thing. But because the blade is so light, and we're concentrating a lot of the weight down near the handle, it actually doesn't feel too heavy, which I'm surprised about. Very interesting. Now, is it sharp? Seems to be, because I'm interested to see how it feels. Oh, that felt nice. Okay, and that's just a one-handed cut. Two. That feels nice. That has got some oomph to it. Interesting. First thoughts are, it's heavy. So I originally wasn't thinking it's too bad in the hand, and it isn't, right? But it is a nice chopper. I will give it that. Interesting. Oh, that one got away from me. I can feel the reverberation, all right? So, see if you guys can hear that. Because it is a full metal handle with what it looks to be brass pins holding it to the tang. It does have some interesting vibration nodes. First thing I will note is that I do like the tip on it. So it has a nice grind that thins it out, especially on this back edge all along the blade. And then it flares out at the tip a little bit. I like that. I gotta stop thrusting first because every time I do it just explodes the bottles. All right, let me cut one of these things properly. If you're enjoying today's episode, you should consider subscribing. It is free after all. So in terms of the shape of the blade, the geometry, all that sort of stuff, I mean, it's very similar. There is a swell here, so it is very falchion-like. I don't know how much I would say that the blade geometry is like, because honestly, I think that this blade geometry is more of a diamond cross-section because we have that primary bevel and then a secondary bevel. So it's just interesting. So if I get really far down on the blade, this tooth, this little brass toothy is sharp, jams into the hands, and that is sharp. So you really have to stay away from that. I don't know if I like that. So very quickly, I'm going to attempt a sheath cut or a draw cut like I would with a katana. Don't know if I recommend it. Don't even know what's going to happen, but I'm just curious. You know what? That wasn't too bad. Yeah, you can't really sheath it like you would with a katana, but hey, that's actually not terrible. That, it's not as good as a katana, right? Obviously. But as a single-edged, curved-ish sort of sword, you still can do it pretty well. So I'm curious. Let's see if we can actually slash through the gambeson. Start with a one hand, right? Didn't get through the last layer though. Got through all the wadding, but didn't get through the last layer. That black layer is the inside layer. All right, let's do a bit of a thrust. Try to avoid the core. You, Tony. From what I understand, obviously Swordia has two versions. This one is the cheaper one, so it's like the 300-ish mark. There is like a $600 one, which has a different handle. I'm not really sure what the differences in the handle are, but honestly, I think I like this brass version. Like, I think aesthetically, it looks a lot better anyway. In terms of the blade itself, I like how the blade feels in the hand. I like how it cuts. It's just interesting how the brass is kind of a little bit heavier. I mean, I know how heavy brass is. I've worked with brass a million times. It's very dense material, but I thought it would feel a bit better. But in use, in actual use, it's a little bit, see, that's a bit better of a thrust. Yeah, it's a good sword. I mean, for 300. But relatively speaking, hit the core again. I really got to stop doing that shit. You get the idea. So I also have got this, whatever the you call this thing, wherever you are in the world, don't care. Anyway, this is far more dense and fibrous. So I thought, let's try the goblin cleaver on this, because I assume that if there's goblins, they have that sort of consistency maybe. So let's see if it cleaves it. I expect it should. This should be fun to cut. Ooh, that felt nice. I'm not gonna lie, that one felt good, guys. That one felt nice. Straight across. Yeah, it cleaves. It's pretty good at it, actually. All right, so we have a stump here. Let's see how this thing actually cleaves some wood. Is it truly a goblin cleaver? Holy f***. Woo! That is a lot of damage. Holy f***. Truly appreciate. straight as an arrow still. So, Goblin Cleaver, the Lord of the Rings falchion or machete or whatever we want to call it, right? It is an interesting sword. Like, I really, really like it. Now, obviously, this one here from Swordia for around about $300. I think it's a no-brainer, personally, because obviously this is a functional battle-ready sword, full tang, all that sort of stuff, spring steel. So you can cut with it and you can do a whole bunch of stuff with it. However, is it like the best sword? This is where it gets interesting, because obviously it's not my favorite. You guys know Glamdring is my favorite. I really like it, especially for like a single-edged sword. However, it didn't cut as cleanly as I thought it would. Now, that didn't mean it cut bad. I mean, it just depends on the type of medium that you're cutting, because obviously when we smash it into the wood, it's really good. So the blade is fantastic. It's more so just some of the ergonomics. Like, I do like how it feels in the hand. It's just a little bit too heavy in the hand. And this sharp kind of like the back of the tooth, that's not ideal. I also do really like that it comes with a full like accented scabbard, right? You know, like that's awesome. There's a lot of steel on this thing that I wasn't expecting at all. So it's really nice to have that. Because this is a fantasy sword, I do think that it is well within the realms to obviously do a Tyrant's initial thoughts score, or TITS for short. Starting off with effectiveness. All right, let's be honest here. 10 out of 10 for effectiveness. It's a beast. You know, it thrusts reasonably well for its blade shape and geometry, and it cuts like a monster. So 10 out of 10. Wieldability. I'm going to put this one down to a 9. It's still perfectly wieldable. You can still use it. It's still functional. There's just a couple of little things here and there where I'm like, yeah, that's just not. Yeah, I don't like that little bit. You know. There's little bits where I'm like, yeah, that's not ideal. So I think a 9 is fine for that. Then when it comes to the design, interesting. I mean, I think I gave it in the actual ranking episode, like the actual Lord of the Rings ranking episode, something like a 9. Like, I gave it something pretty high because it's a functional design. There's not really any huge drawbacks here. It's just personal preference things. So honestly, I would still give it a 9. Then last but not least, we get to its comfort. I would give this, I'm gonna give this an 8 for comfort. It's reasonably comfortable, and this sharp tooth is just bringing down lots of the points. And you know, there's a couple of little spots where there's high spots from the casting and transitions between, you know, different bits of the accents to the handle, etc., etc. And even in the chop, it's reasonably comfortable. That gives us a final score of 36 out of 40. Still very, very respectable and very good. There's just a couple of little areas where personally I would probably like to refine it. Now, it comes to the question, would I recommend that you purchase this with your hard-earned money? It's obviously way better than a wall hanger, right? This is not a wall hanger, this is a functional sword. I do really like it, and if this is if this is your favorite sword, right, then yeah, no brainer. If it's something where you're wanting something more refined and you're wanting something very specific, I think they have the more expensive version. So like maybe that one has a little bit higher quality, but for 300-ish sort of dollars, like, you know, I'll put all the prices up so I can be exact with it. I do think it is worth the money, just because it's a spring steel battle-ready blade. I do like the brass handle in terms of its aesthetic design. Like I said, it's a little heavy in the hand. It's brass, man, and that adds some weight to it. But it does look really cool. I will definitely admit that. And it's like a brass dragon tooth or something. Like that's awesome. And you get the scabbard. So if you want to pick one of these up, there'll be a link down below, and it helps support the channel as well. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I genuinely hope you enjoyed. And as always, I'll see you next week in another episode. Have a good one. Functional Orcrist Goblin Cleaver. It's pretty cool. I like it. Hell yeah.